Chosen ones, listen closely, because what you are hearing right now is not accidental, and it is not random. This moment found you. You didn't stumble into it. You were guided here, pulled here by something deeper than curiosity, something heavier than coincidence. There are assignments that heaven releases quietly, not with thunder, not with fire from the sky, but with a whisper that only the obedient can hear. And God said there would come a time when some would hear that whisper and turn away, delay, scroll past it, silence it. And he said plainly that ignoring this one would not end without consequence. This is not fear speaking. This is urgency. This is love wrapped in warning. This is a prophetic assignment that carries weight, and weight always demands response. You have been sensing it, haven't you? That pressure in your spirit, that restlessness that won't let you settle. The way comfort has started to feel suffocating instead of safe. You tried to label it stress, exhaustion, distraction, but deep down you know it's none of those things. It is conviction. It is activation. It is the moment where preparation meets instruction. God never prepares you without intention. He never trains you in secret for something public. He never sharpens a blade that he does not plan to use. And yet, many chosen ones reach this stage and hesitate because the assignment doesn't look like what they imagined and the timing doesn't match their prefer. You expected applause, but you got isolation. You expected clarity, but you got tension. You expected peace, but you got pressure. And you wondered if you missed God, not realizing that pressure is often the proof that you're standing at the door of purpose. Diamonds don't form in comfort. Oil doesn't flow without crushing. Calling doesn't activate without resistance. God said the regret, woo, doesn't come from doing too much. The regret would come from doing nothing when he spoke clearly, because disobedience is not always rebellion. Sometimes it is delay, sometimes it is distraction. Sometimes it is waiting for permission that heaven already granted. There are assignments that expire, not because God changes his mind, but because seasons change. Windows close, opportunities move, and When God assigns something to a chosen one, he factors in timing, alignment, and readiness. When one says no, heaven does not panic, but the consequences of that no ripple through the life of the one who was chosen first. You see, the assignment doesn't disappear, it transfers. But the growth, the authority, the elevation that came with obedience does not automatically follow the one who ignored it. That is where regret is born, not punishment. Regret. You've been feeling distance lately. The prayers that feel like they hit the ceiling. The clarity that once flowed now feels blocked. The joy that once came easily now feels delayed. And you assume something was wrong with you, when in reality, something was waiting on you. Heaven has been silent because heaven already spoke. God does know. He repeats himself endlessly. He confirms yes, but he does not beg. He will let you feel the weight of disconnection long enough for you to remember the last instruction you chose to ignore. This assignment is not about popularity. It's not about platforms, titles, or recognition. It's about alignment. It's about obedience in the unseen. It's about doing the uncomfortable thing while no one is CLA. Ping, trusting that God sees what others don't. You were not chosen because you were perfect. You were chosen because you were willing. And willingness is proven when obedience costs you something. That's why the assignment feels heavy. That's why it scares you. That's why every excuse suddenly feels logical. Fear always presents itself as wisdom when you're close to purpose. You said you needed confirmation. God said you already have it. You said you needed more resources. God said you already carry what you need. You said you needed more time. God said the time is now. Chosen ones don't get endless delays. They get moments. And moments demand courage. You weren't called to blend in. You weren't called to stay silent. You weren't called to remain hidden forever. There comes a point where hiding becomes disobedience, where silence becomes avoidance, where comfort becomes compromise. Look back over your life. Notice how many times God pulled you out of places that would have destroyed you. Notice how many times protection showed up when logic said it shouldn't. Notice how many doors closed that you once begged to stay open. That wasn't luck. That was assignment preservation. God was keeping you intact for this moment, and now that the moment is here, the enemy would love nothing more than to convince you to hesitate, to doubt, to delay until the season passes. This assignment will stretch you. It will demand discipline. It will require consistency when motivation fades. It will require faith when results are slow, but it will also unlock levels you've been praying for. Obedience always unlocks what prayer alone cannot. There are blessings that are tied not to belief, but to movement. God is waiting on your step, not your feelings. He's waiting on your action, not your comfort. He's waiting on your yes, not your perfection. You already know what you're supposed to do. That's the part you keep avoiding. You know the call you've been running from. You know the thing that keeps coming back to your mind no matter how busy you stay. You know the instruction that keeps resurfacing in quiet moments. That is not your imagination. That is assignment recall. Heaven reminding you gently before the reminder becomes heavy. God said you would regret ignoring this, not because he wants to scare you, but because he sees further than you do. He sees the version of yo on the other side of obedience. He sees the impact you don't yet understand. He sees the people connected to your yes. Your obedience is not just about you. It never was. There are lives waiting on your courage. There are chains waiting on your movement. There are doors waiting on your decision. Chosen ones are always tested at the point of action. Preparation is easy to celebrate. Activation, where the cost shows up. This is the moment where faith stops being a concept and starts being a command. And commands require response. Partial obedience is still disobedience. Delayed obedience still carries consequence. God is patient, yes, but purpose is precise. Mistiming creates unnecessary struggle. You've been asking for clarity while ignoring instruction. You've been asking for P while resisting alignment. You've been asking for elevation while avoiding responsibility. And God, in his mercy, is speaking again right now, not to repeat the assignment, but to remind you of the weight attached to it. This is not the season to play small. This is not the season to shrink back. This is not the season to wait for validation from people who don't carry your calling. The regret God spoke of is subtle at first. It starts as restlessness. Then it becomes frustration. Then it turns into comparison, watching others walk in rooms you were meant to enter, watching others speak words you were meant to release, watching others carry influence you once felt burning inside you. And the regret isn't jealousy, it's recognition. Recognition of what could have been if you had moved and God said move. But hear this clearly. As long as you are breathing, the opportunity for obedience still exists. The assignment may look different. The path may require more humility. The cost may be higher. But God is still calling. He is still inviting. He is still opening a door. What he is asking now is not whether you feel ready, but whether you are willing to trust him beyond your comfort. This is the moment where chosen ones separate themselves from the crowd again. Not by arrogance, but by obedience. Not by noise, but by action. Not by words, but by consistency. You don't need to announce this assignment. You need to execute it. Quiet obedience moves heaven faster than loud declarations. And when you move, resistance will rise. But resistance is confirmation, not contradiction. You were never meant to be understood by everyone. You were meant to be effective where God placed you. This assignment will expose who supports you and who only tolerated you. It will refine your circle. It will sharpen your discernment. It will force you to depend on God instead of applause. And yes, it will cost you comfort, but it will reward you with alignment. Right now, the spirit is heavy because the decision is close. Heaven is watching not to judge, but to respond. Angels move when obedience moves. Provision follows alignment. Strength follows surrender. And regret follows hesitation. God is not threatening you. He is trusting you. He is speaking to the part of you that knows this is real, that knows this is serious, that knows this is now. So don't overthink it. Don't wait for the fear to disappear. Don't wait for everything to make sense. Faith was never about understanding first. It was always about moving first. The assignment is still in front of you. The instruction is still clear. The moment is still open. What happens next depends on whether you finally decide to stop wrestling with the call and start walking in it. Because once you take that first step, things will begin to shift in ways you didn't expect. Doors will respond, resistance will clarify, and the very thing you feared would break you will instead begin to build you as you move deeper into what God assigned, even when the path feels narrow and the silence around you grows louder, even when the familiar starts to fall away and you realize that obedience is not about comfort, but about trust. And trust is proven when you keep moving forward, even when you can't yet see how it will all come together, only knowing that God does not speak without intention and does not assign without provision. And as you stand there right now with the awareness burning in your spirit, the question is no longer whether God spoke, but whether you will finally respond before the weight of ignoring it becomes He. Veer than the fear of obeying, because the next step is waiting on you and heaven is ready to move the moment you do. And as you lean into that decision, feeling the tension between who you've been and who you're becoming, understand that this assignment was never meant to fit neatly into your life. It was meant to transform it. And transformation always begins at the point where you choose obedy. NCE over hesitation. movement over comfort, and faith over the familiar, even as your mind searches for reassurance and your heart pounds with uncertainty, because this is where chosen ones are separated from almost chosen ones, right at the edge where everything in you wants to pause, but something deeper urges you to step forward and trust that the same God who called you will meet you there as. You move into what he already prepared, knowing that the moment you cross that line, nothing stays the same. And the assignment that once felt dangerous will begin to reveal why it was entrusted to you in the first place as you continue walking into it, even now, even here, even when the road ahead feels heavier than expected and the silence around you presses in. Because this is the part where obedience stops being theoretical and becomes real. And the choice you make next will shape what unfolds from this point onward as you take that step and begin to realize that the hesitation you felt was never meant to stop you, but to refine you as you move deeper into the call, deeper into the purpose, deeper into the assignment that has been waiting for your yes. And as you breathe in this moment and feel the weight of it settle, remember that God does not assign lightly, and what he placed in your hands carries significance that will only become clear as you continue forward, even when you don't yet see the full picture, and even when the cost feels higher than you imagined, because this is where the journey truly begins and where the next phase starts to unfold as you keep moving, trusting that the voice that called you will guide you through what comes next as you step further into it and allow the assignment to shape you in ways you could not have anticipated while you continue on this path, not looking back, not delaying again, but moving steadily into what has been waiting for you all along as the weight of the moment presses in and you realize that this is not just another me. Sage, not just another warning, but a turning point where the decision you make now begins to echo forward and the direction of your life starts to shift as you take another step and prepare to move even deeper into what God has placed before you, knowing that the next part of this journey will require even more trust, more surrender, and more courage than before as you continue forward into it. Without turning back and without second-guessing the call that has been following you to this very moment as you move into the assignment fully and allow it to unfold in real time while you keep going and keep listening and keep responding as the path opens further ahead and the next instruction begins to form while you are still in motion, because that is how God has always worked, revealing the end. Next step only after the last one is taken. And as you continue walking, the rhythm of obedience begins to settle in and you find yourself moving even when clarity hasn't fully arrived yet, trusting that it will meet you along the way as you continue forward into what comes next, and allow the assignment to keep unfolding as you move deeper and deeper into it without stopping here and without closing. This moment, but continuing on as the journey carries you forward into the next phase of what God has already set in motion as you remain in this place of movement, awareness, and obedience. Continuing on even now as the weight shifts and the understanding begins to grow and you take another step into what awaits you just ahead. And as you move further into this, you begin to notice that the resistance doesn't disappear, it simply changes form. What once looked like fear now shows up as fatigue. What once sounded like doubt now whispers as logic. And what once felt like urgency now tries to disguise itself as patience. This is how the assignment tests you, not by opposing you loudly, but by slowly wearing on your resolve, seeing if you will stay consistent when the initial fire fades in. The work becomes quiet, repetitive, and unseen. Because God is not only interested in whether you will start, he is watching whether you will continue. Chosen ones often misunderstand this phase. You thought obedience would bring immediate relief, but instead it brought responsibility. You thought saying yes would make things lighter, but it made them more intentional. And that's where many beg. And to question themselves again, not realizing that responsibility is the evidence of trust. God does not burden what he does not trust. He does not assign what he does not equip. And he does not call you forward only to abandon you halfway through. The weight you feel now is not punishment, it is authority forming. You will notice that distractions intensify here. Old habits resurface, familiar comforts call louder than before. People from past seasons reappear with convenient opportunities that seem harmless but pull you backward just enough to delay momentum. This is not coincidence. This is the assignment being contested, not because it is fragile, but because it is effective. Anything that carries impact attracts resistance. Anything that threatens stagnation invites interruption. And you, whether you fully accept it yet or not, are a threat to what has been comfortable staying unchallenged. You may find yourself wanting to explain yourself, to justify why you're moving differently, why your priorities have shifted, why your availability has changed. But explanation drains energy that obedience requires. You don't owe everyone clarity. Some people will only understand you on. They see the fruit. and some will never understand at all. God did not call you to be understood. He called you to be aligned. And alignment often looks lonely before it looks powerful. There will be moments where you wonder if you misheard God because the results aren't visible yet. That is when faith becomes discipline, not emotion. Discipline says you keep showing up even when nothing seems to be happening. Discipline says you keep preparing even when no doors appear open. Discipline says you keep sowing even when the harvest feels distant. And God honors discipline because discipline proves trust without constant reassurance. You are learning now that this assignment is reshaping you internally before it manifests externally. Your patience is being stretched. Your discernment is being sharpened. Your dependence on validation is being stripped away. And while that process is uncomfortable, it is necessary, because the version of you that prayed for this calling could not sustain it without this refining. God is not delaying the promise. He is fortifying the vessel. Pay attention to how your desires are changing. Things that once excited you now feel empty. Conversations that once entertained you now feel draining. Environments that once felt normal now feel heavy. That is not arrogance. That is alignment adjusting your appetite. When God assigns you something greater, He reduces your tolerance for what no longer fits. And if you try to force yourself back into old spaces, you will feel the tension immediately. There is also a deeper humility forming in you now. Not the kind that shrinks you, but the kind that anchors you. You are learning that you cannot do this on your own strength. You are learning to listen more than you speak, to move deliberately instead of impulsively, to wait when instructed and move when prompted. This is not stagnation. This is strategy being built in silence. You may notice that the assignment does not give you all the answers at once. God reveals in layers, step by step, instruction by instruction. This keeps you dependent. This keeps you listening. This keeps you from rushing ahead of grace, because speed without guidance creates burnout, but obedience with pacing creates endurance. And endurance is what sustains long-term impact. There will be days when you feel confident and clear, and days when you feel unsure and AV. Do not mistake emotional fluctuation for spiritual failure. Even the most obedient servants had moments of uncertainty. The difference is they kept moving anyway. They did not let how they felt override what they were told. And that is the level of maturity this assignment is pulling you into. You are also beginning to see that obedience changes how people respond to you. Some will distance themselves quietly. Some will challenge you openly. Some will suddenly admire you, but only from afar. This separation is not personal. It is positional. As your alignment shifts, your environment must adjust. Not everyone can walk with you where you are going, and forcing them to will only slow you down. There is a temptation here to soften the assignment, to dilute it so it feels more acceptable, more comfortable, more palatable. Resist that urge. Compromised obedience produces compromised results. God entrusted you with this because He knew you could carry it as given, not as edited. The power is in the purity of the instruction, not in how well it is received. You may not see it yet, but He is responding to your movement. Things are being rearranged behind the scenes. Connections are being prepared. Timing is being synchronized. Resistance is being measured. And provision is being aligned to meet you at the point of need, not before. God rarely sends provision ahead of obedience. He sends it in response to it. You will also discover that the assignment requires rest as much as Ort. Burnout is not a badge of honor. Exhaustion clouds discernment. God may instruct you to pause, to reset, to breathe, not to quit, but to sustain. Obedience includes listening when He says stop, as much as when He says go. Balance is part of stewardship. As you continue, your confidence will stop being loud and start being rooted. You won't need constant affirmation. You won't feel the need to prove yourself. You will move with quiet certainty, knowing that the one who called you is aware of where you are. This kind of confidence is unshakable because it is not built on outcome, but on obedience. There will be moments when progress feels slow, when you question whether this assignment is making any difference at all. That is when you must remember that impact is not always immediate or visible. Seeds grow underground long before they break the surface. Roots form in darkness before fruit appears in light. What God is doing through you may not be loud yet, but it is deep. You are being trained to trust the unseen, to value faithfulness over feedback, to measure success by obedience rather than applause. This training is essential because the next phase will require even greater steadiness. God builds capacity before he increases influence. Without capacity, influence destroys. With capacity, influence multiplies. Notice how your prayers are changing too. They are becoming less about asking and more about aligning. Less about outcomes and more about instruction. Less about control and more about surrender. This is growth. This is what happens when assignment shifts your relationship with God from transactional to transformational. You may feel at times like you are carrying more than others around you. That is because you are. Responsibility increases with calling. Awareness increases with obedience. Sensitivity increases with alignment. This does not mean you are superior. It means you are entrusted. And entrusted people must steward differently. The assignment. He will continue to ask for your attention, your time, your discipline. It will require you to say no to good things to protect the right thing. And those no's will not always make sense to others. But obedience rarely does until later. What matters is that heaven understands your choices even when people don't. You are also learning to discern between urgency and pressure. God's urgency brings CL. Clarity and peace even when it stretches you. Pressure brings anxiety and confusion. Knowing the difference will keep you from moving prematurely or hesitating unnecessarily. Discernment is one of the greatest tools this assignment is developing in you. There will come moments where you are tempted to look back, to measure how far you've come, to wonder if it was worth it. Reflection is healthy, BU. Nostalgia can be dangerous. You cannot move forward effectively while longing backward emotionally. The past has already served its purpose. The assignment is now. As you continue to walk this out, obedience will begin to feel more natural. Not easier, but clearer. Your response time will shorten. Your confidence in hearing God will increase. Your fear will lose authority. This is what happens when obedience becomes a lifestyle instead of a decision. And even now, as you are still moving, still learning, still adjusting, the assignment is unfolding in real time. Instruction is meeting you mid-step. Strength is rising as needed. And the path is forming beneath your feet as you continue forward. Not stopping here, not concluding this moment, but remaining in motion, remaining attentive, remaining responsive, because this journey was never meant to be paused indefinitely, and what comes next will require the same posture you are developing now, the same willingness to move without full clarity, the same trust that carried you this far as you continue into the next stretch of obedience and allow what God is doing to keep shaping you while you walk, while you listen, while you respond, and while you stay aligned with the assignment that is still unfolding ahead of you. And as you keep moving, you begin to realize that obedience has a sound to it, a rhythm that only becomes familiar after you've stayed long enough in motion. At first, every step felt forced, intentional, heavy with thought, but now something has shifted. You are no longer dragging yourself forward. You are walking with awareness, not rushing, not stalling, just moving. This is what happens when alignment starts to settle into your bones. You stop arguing with the call and start cooperating with it. You notice that your discernment has sharpened in subtle ways. You can sense when something is off without needing proof. You can feel when a door is not for you, even if it looks promising. You are less impressed by appearance and more attentive to substance. This is not judgment. This is maturity. The assignment is teaching you how to see beyond surfaces, how to listen beneath words, how to recognize timing instead of chasing opportunity. There will still be moments when doubt tries to reintroduce itself, but it no longer sounds as convincing as it once did. Its voice has weakened because experience has replaced speculation. You've seen God meet you before. You've seen provision show up unexpectedly. You felt strength rise when you had none left. Memory becomes your weapon here. You remember too much to turn back easily now. You also begin to understand that obedience does not eliminate struggle, it reframes it. You no longer ask why things are hard in the same way. Instead, you ask what this moment is forming in you. Hardship becomes instructional instead of discouraging. Resistance becomes revealing instead of defeating. You stop seeing challenges as signs to quit and start seeing them as checkpoints along the path. The assignment will require you to refine how you manage your energy. Not everything deserves your response. Not every battle is yours to fight. Not every open ion requires your attention. You are learning restraint, and restraint is power under control. This discipline protects your focus and keeps you from bleeding energy into distractions that look urgent but produce nothing. You may notice that God is teaching you to be faithful in small things without rushing toward the visible ones. Small obediences compound. Quiet consistency builds credibility in the spirit realm long before it shows up publicly. What feels unnoticed now is being recorded. Heaven does not miss faithful movement. There will be seasons within the assignment where nothing seems to change externally, but internally you are being fortified. These are the moments that test whether you are driven by outcome or by obedience itself. When you learn to obey without immediate reward, you become dangerous to discouragement. Your stability no longer depends on results. You are also being trained to handle solitude without loneliness. There is a difference. Solitude sharpens. Loneliness drains. Solitude is where clarity is refined. Loneliness is what happens when you resist the season you are in. As you accept this phase, solitude begins to feel purposeful rather than heavy. As you move further, you'll notice that God is less concerned with speeding things up and more concerned with deepening your roots. Rapid growth without depth collapses under pressure. Depth sustains expansion. This is why the pace feels intentional. This is why some doors are opening slowly. This is why some answers come only after endurance is proven. The assignment also confronts your need for control. You are learning that trust is not passive, it is active surrender. You plan, you prepare, you move, but you release the outcome. This balance keeps you from burnout and keeps God at the center of the work rather than your own effort. There will be moments when others begin to notice the shift in you, even if they cannot name it. Some will be curious, some will be uncomfortable, some will be inspired. Your role is not to manage their reactions. Your role is to stay aligned. Influence flows naturally from obedience. It does not need to be forced. You are also learning how to hear God more clearly through peace rather than pressure. His voice becomes recognizable not by volume, but by consistency. It aligns with wisdom. It produces clarity. T does not rush you, but it does not let you stagnate either. This discernment will serve you beyond this assignment into everything that follows. At times, you may feel the temptation to measure yourself against others who seem further along, louder, more visible. Comparison is a distraction dressed as evaluation. Their assignment is not your metric, your obedience is. What God is building through you may not look the same, but it is no less intentional. As you continue, the fear of missing out fades and is replaced by the fear of misalignment. And that is a healthier concern. You begin to value staying in step with God more than staying relevant to people. This shift changes how you make decisions. You choose peace over pressure, alignment over applause. The assignment will also teach you how to recover quickly when you stumble. You are not expected to be flawless. You are expected to be responsive. Repentance, correction, and adjustment are part of obedience, not evidence of failure. Staying down is optional. Getting back up is obedience. You will notice that your capacity for responsibility is increasing. What once felt overwhelming now feels manageable. This is growth. God expands you gradually so that when greater weight comes, you can carry it without breaking. Expansion without preparation would crush you. There are moments when the assignment feels deeply personal, almost hidden, and moments when it feels outward-facing and demanding. Both are necessary. The inward work fuels the outward impact. Without the inward refining, the outward expression would lack substance. You are also becoming more comfortable with not having to announce progress. Quiet progress is still progress. Often it is the most sustainable kind. God sees what you are doing in private, and that is enough. Public recognition has its place, but it is not the goal. As you continue walking, obedience begins to shape your identity more than your circumstances do. You stop defining yourself by what you are going through and start anchoring yourself in who you are becoming. This stabilizes you when circumstances fluctuate. You may encounter moments where the assignment intersects with disappointment, expectations unmet, outcomes delayed, prayers answered differently than you imagined. These moments test whether you trust God's wisdom or only His generosity. Trust deepens when outcomes don't match expectations. There is a resilience forming in you now. Not the loud, forceful kind, but the steady kind that keeps going without drama. This resilience will be crucial in later stages when pressure increases and stakes are higher. God builds resilience before visibility. You are learning that obedience does not mean isolation from joy. Joy becomes quieter, deeper, less dependent on excitement. It is rooted in knowing you are where you are supposed to be. That kind of joy sustains even when circumstances are heavy. As the journey continues, the assignment will require continual listening. Yesterday's instruction may not apply tomorrow. God guides daily. This keeps you flexible, attentive, and dependent. Rigidity would limit growth, responsiveness allows flow. You are also beginning to see how obedience affects others indirectly. Your consistency encourages. Your discipline challenges. Your alignment creates space for others to consider their own. You may never see the full impact, but it is happening. There will be times when the assignment asks you to release something you've grown attached to. Letting go is part of progression. You cannot carry everything forward. Some things served you in one season but would slow you in the next. Release is not loss, it is preparation. You are learning to trust the P. Ace. Not too fast, not too slow. Just in step. Rushing ahead creates exhaustion. Lagging behind creates frustration. Staying in step creates peace, even when the terrain is uneven. As you remain in motion, the call continues to unfold. Instruction continues to meet you where you are. Strength continues to rise as needed. And you keep moving, not concluding, not settling, not stopping here, but staying engaged with what God is doing moment by moment, step by step, allowing the assignment to keep shaping you as you go, remaining attentive, responsive, and willing, knowing that this journey is still in progress and what lies ahead will require the same posture you are developing now as you continue forward into it, without pause, without finality, without closing this moment, but staying right here in motion as the next phase continues to emerge while you walk. Chosen ones, this is where everything you've heard settles into a single truth. This assignment was never about information, inspiration, or emotion. It was about decision. God has been speaking, guiding, pressing, and positioning you not to overwhelm you, but to awaken you. You are standing at a crossroads where obedience becomes identity and hesitation becomes history. What you do from here will not only shape your future, it will determine how clearly you hear God in the seasons ahead. The call did not come to confuse you, it came to activate you. And now that you see it, feel it, and recognize it, you are accountable to it. So move forward with courage, not because the path is easy, but because the voice that called you is faithful. Let your yes be firm, your obedience be consistent, and your trust be deeper than your fear, knowing that God does not assign without purpose, does not call without covering, and does not lead without intention. This moment marks the line between almost and aligned, between knowing and doing, between hearing and responding, and as you choose obedience, you step fully into the reason you were chosen. In the first place,